Today we have a great guest with us, and she is Alessandra Bertassoni, directly from Brazil. Well, Alexandra has a master's degree in ecology and conservation and a PhD in animal biology. She is specialized on giant anteaters and other medium-sized animals. She currently is a volunteer researcher at Projeto Tamandua in Mato Grosso do Sul, Brazil. Well, Alexandra, welcome, and I hope you like this interview, and I hope we can raise awareness about the current situation of giant theaters in Brazil.
Yeah, in fact, it will to have more attention for giant anteater in all its distribution because the traits and risks are very similar in all distribution of this animal. I just have to correct you in little thing because
It
Projeto
isn't in much.
Tamandua
Yeah.
is now having its base
So,
in Piauí state, not in Mato Grosso do Sul anymore.
oh, oh yeah, I missed that. Sorry
Do you
for
want
that.
to do again?
But again, the important thing here is that the work is continuing to be done by Projeto Tamandua and by you, and that you are still protecting tetra Myrmecophaga. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That is the genus, but you almost forgot. So then,
Myrmecophaga tridactyla.
Myrmecophaga tridactyla. Yeah, thanks for that. So well, let's start with the questions. First, can you tell us a little more about you, about how is your everyday work, and for our viewers to know?
Okay, so today, currently, I am a postdoctoral research at Federal University of Goiás State in Brazil. Now we have this pandemic wave, so I am working from my home. I am doing home office since March 20, 2000 March. So a lot of time inside of my house, but I work now. I am working the computer, working with some projects that I already have, and I am trying to. I am trying to get some awards to other projects that I am thinking to do in the future, but we need this financial support to do it. So these days it's like this. I just working the computer. I have some students that I am collaborating with masters or doctoral thesis. So we do just like this our conversations, and I think it's just like that.
Well, that's really amazing. And by the way, now that you mentioned it, that for that project you need financial support, do Projeto Tamandua is accepting donations or needs donations in these difficult times?
Yes, of course. All of NGOs in Brazil are having is struggling to be doing the work. So Instituto Tamanduá is accepting donation now and anytime donators want, in fact.
Well, people, now that you are seeing what Projeto Tamandua does for rare and endangered species in Brazil, is really impressive. So I will try to let you down below the link to the for you to donate to Project Tamandua and to support their work. Well,
Nice.
Alexandra, now that you have told us about your passion for giant theaters, what is the thing you like the most of them, or the things that you like the most?
Giant anteaters are just amazing animals, and one of the things that I really like to to feel when I am in a nature or in a place of a remand that has some beautiful landscape, and I see a giant anteater, I just think, wow, I am seeing this animal, and this is an animal that is in the surface of the earth of a lot of time, and it's just amazing to have this sight. And the animal is very interesting because the way it eats, the way it walks, all the stuff in this animal is a little magical. So it's just amazing to see a giant anteater in the wild. Of course, it's okay to see in the zoos or captivity, but in the wild, it's just very, very nice.
You know that that's something I remember. I read it yesterday that it is more beautiful to see a wild animal in their habitat than seeing it in a zoo or as a pet. And yeah, you know that yesterday I was on a birding trip to a local mangrove patch, and I saw, and I was very happy because I saw a bird that I haven't seen in my life, and it was in the wild. Imagine that. That was simply amazing. I haven't had the opportunity to see giant anteaters in the wild, but in zoos I have seen them. And yeah, I completely agree with you in that. It is not the same to see them
Yeah.
free, wild.
And
And
I think I feel a little bit blessed to see this in the wild. It's not too easy, but of course I work with this animal, so I have some cues to follow in the nature to find them. But it's very amazing to see any wild animal in his own habitat, for sure.
for sure. Then, second question. Where you have worked, in what parts of Brazil, in what projects, and where you are currently working? Well, before the pandemic started and the quarantine and all these crazy things.
Okay. So I started to do my anteater observations in the Minas Gerais state in Brazil. It's central South Brazil, and I currently did my work at the Serra da Canastra National Park, and in there, it's one of the parts of Brazil that have the greatest densities of giant anteater. So it's easy to see them. So I worked with behavior. I spot the animals, stay with them, just annotate, just writing all the stuff they are doing, and I compare this data with the data that I achieved from the zoo. So I compared those two things, and this was my first work in the giant anteater career. After that, I just will focus on giant anteater works, but I did my master's degree, and in my master's degree, I compared three sites: Pantanal Wetland, Serra da Canastra again, and a student site that was in Roraima State. It's the northeast of Brazil. And for each one of these stud sites, we had four giant anteaters with telemetry equipment. So we measured their home range and also we capture ants and termites to see if the home range size has some correlation with the density of the prey. That was ants and termites. So this was my master, and after that I did my uh, doctor degree in São Paulo State with a small population of giant anteaters in the ecological station of Santa Bárbara. And in there, I captured nine giant anteaters, and again, I see the home range, but now the proximity with one to another and the overlap of their home range inside of this small reserve. And also, we did some analysis in the habitat selection. It was very different because São Paulo state is the most development state of Brazil. So the trees are spreading there. So it was very different to to after I was just in very nature patches, but São Paulo state is very different. So this is different views of the same animal.
Oh, so it can be a little bit more difficult because, well, we are in a developed state, and it is, then different from being in the middle of the jungle.
Nature. Yeah, it's
And
like that.
and hey, and by the way, now that you mentioned that you have worked with giant theaters, Sao Paulo State, Roraima State, I believe you have worked in the Pantanal, Cerrado, and Amazonian ecosystem, right?
No, because the Roraima State was a patch of Cerrado relict,
Oh,
so it was in Cerrado domain of vegetation. Sorry, I have a plane.
don't worry, it's okay. We also have a little bit of planes going and cars too. But by the way, well, Cerrado, yeah. What are the main difference you found between both between all the giant theaters populations you studied, because they are geographically separated and with big separation. For example, from Sao Paulo State to Roraima, then to Minas Gerais, it is, well, they are like not isolated populations, but very separated populations.
Yeah, it's difficult to compare them because the methods are were different. So we can't provide a comparison with so different methodologies. But we saw that in São Paulo, the animals were more inside of the reserve, and the trees are very incisive in the reserve. So we found five giant anteaters victims of roadkill in a year and a half. So it's a lot of animals that is dying there because the roads, the railways. It's different from the other sites because uh, I was working in some range or in some private reserve or a national park that's huge. So it's very difficult to do some comparison. But the thing is, when giant anteater is in places that are too altered from anthropogenic activities, uh, that to maintain this population, it's important and it's essential to have some part of this place a little bit natural, a forest patch, a river, something that maintain the resource, maintain the ecosystem dynamics. Otherwise, if just pasture or just timberland, it's it's not going to maintain long term, medium term a viable population of giant anteater.
Well, yeah. Now you mentioned that all the animals died in the reserve because, well, it is the most developed state in Brazil. So I believe that road uh, roadkill. Well, no, they become roadkill when they are passed by. Roads mean a big threat to giant theaters. So aren't there plans like to make wildlife crossing places? And Associação Mico Leão Dourado have that kind of like wildlife passages, I believe. But of course, they are in the trees for the golden lion tamarins. But aren't there plans like, for example, the ones that exist in Canada, in USA, in Europe, to safely cross the animals the roads?
Yeah, the first thing it's important to do assessment of the road to see hotspots of road queues to plan where to put this kind of structure. For giant anteaters, I already saw them using this tunnel like it's under the road.
Oh,
So it's they use a circular stuff of cement and put in the ground, and the animals are using this, but it's not a guarantee that the animal will use.
we'll
But
use it.
it's a cool thing to do, and for now, for our understanding, it's this is available. So the roads have to think to put this to the animals for sure.
And that is the important thing. At least they have an option. For example, you can cross the road or use the little tunnel or the little cement thingy, and one you want. But we don't know yet what do they think when they are in this situation. What are some of the other threats that giant theaters face in Brazil?
Wow, the greatest threat to giant anteaters elsewhere in Brazil is habitat loss and fragmentation. Because when you lost some habitat, this is not suitable anymore. So you lost the home of some individuals. So this is very, very bad for small populations, and giant anteaters now are having small populations in almost all its range. So the habitat loss
Ooh.
is very important to this species. Also, when you has this process of habitat loss and fragmentation, there is some consequence. For example, road structure, towns, road networks, timberland, agriculture, and other things that came with this fragmentation. So it's not one factor; it's multifactorial thing. It's huge. So this is the why habitat loss and fragmentation is the largest and the greatest threat to giant anteaters. Here in Brazil, we have also the road problem. They are victims of roadkill a lot. It's not we are losing a lot of giant anteaters individuals in all our roads in Brazil, and We are some people are studying this. That's very nice because we need some information to understand better what is happening. And but I want to talk about this dogs conflict. The places that giant anteaters are sometimes are kind like rural properties, rural environmentals, and in this kind of place there is dogs, and the farmers and the ranchers just leave these dogs by their own, and they hunt and they go to a giant anteaters, and the giant anteaters try to defend her itself. And this is a problem because sometimes giant anteater can kill a dog because the great paws, the great oh, I don't know how to say this. Claws,
Uh,
claws.
close,
Yeah,
yeah.
claws. So sometimes the giant anteater do this perforation in the dog, and the dog
Mm,
dies.
bites.
And the farmer and the rancher goes to the giant anteater to kill. So it's a conflict that it's a little bit difficult to work with because it's not only the dog, it's the dog and it the
And the
owner.
owner.
So this is a threat to giant anteaters that we need to have more information, for sure.
I believe that many of the things that are happening in the world right now could be, or yeah, could be corrected by education. So aren't there, like, for example, any education, yeah, like, I don't know, scholarships or speeches for the local people that live in the local range of giant anteaters to avoid this type of conflicts. Of course, we can do much things with the dogs, but at least try to avoid the owner of the dog killing the giant anteater and keeping this cycle.
Yeah, we think that all the time you have a project in an area, it's important to have this very near contact with the local community because they are actors in this conservation strategy, and they are all the time in there. So it's important to provide them some information about the animal, invite them to see our work, invite them to a field day, something like that. And they will be more sensitive with our project, our target, and for the species. So it's important to have this near conversation, open dialogue with this local community.
Well, Alexandra, let's ask you another question about the topic. Well, it is not exactly about this topic, but do you work with other species of animals apart from giant anteaters?
Yeah. When I start to buy my biology course, I did some trainees and I worked with spider. The first thing I did in my career of biologist was maintaining some brown spider. It's a genus Loxosceles. It's a very important medical interest spider, and in my university city, it was has a lot of this spider. So I worked this, and after I participate with a project red tail parrot. and it was amazing because they do some census of the animals, and this parrot, it's a parrot that just live in islands, so we have to go to the beach and counting the parrots that was flying, and it was very very nice to do it. Also, I did some trainee with the maned wolf in the Serra da Canastra National Park. It was very nice too. And in there, I just saw my first giant anteater. So this is my important trainee because in there I developed my love to giant anteater.
Yeah.
So I think that, but also I already done some mammals assessment in Pantanal and in São Paulo, and well, I think like that.
That was what I was gonna say, that it was like your revelation when you first saw your first giant theater in the wild, like, oh, I want to work with giant theaters.
It
Well,
was just like that, in fact.
giant theaters are, how is their personality? Because, for example, for me, giant theaters are an animal. For many people, they are like not weird but rare. Like, for example, oh my god, yeah, it is an animal with a big tongue, and you don't expect that at first, but for me they are a beautiful animal. They are like very nice, very calm. How are they? How is the do they are sometimes aggressive when you work with them or near them, or how do they behave
Okay.
in the wild?
Giant eaters are big mammals, and they have to conserve some energy heat. So they are calm, but if they think they are being threatened or in risk, they can run, and they are fast. Believe me, they can be very, very rapid, quickly, and they run a lot. It's very difficult to go to a giant eater that is running. Uh, and if they stay very very mad for because you are trying to capture them or something, they can do some sounds with the mouth. It's huge. It's and it's difficult to a giant eater to do it, but it's very disturbing sound. And sometimes they can stay like bipedal and show the
Oof.
claw. Yeah, but to do this is like I am very, very mad with you. So it's very difficult to see something like that.
Is human interaction a problem with the iron and theater? Well, because
Yeah.
now that you say it, what can make a giant theater so mad to run, to be like bipedal, and to do that sound? And oh my god, I see that in a giant theater, and believe me, I run away and never go back.
They are very calm. It's very difficult to an individual to do it. But when I was capturing them, and we
Mm.
need to capture to put the GPS, telemetry equipment, so it's important to manage them. They know that we are just following them, so
For
they don't like, and they they warning us with sound, with being just sitting, and sometimes they do this like a bipedal position. It's very difficult to see to occur, but it's possible. A thing is when a tourist or some rural people see a giant anteater in their habitat, they want to take a picture to be nearby, and
Mm.
sometimes the anteater don't like. And sometimes people think, oh, this is a calm animal, so I can touch. And when
Oh,
they touch, some of the animals go to run, some of the animals try to defend themselves. So this can be a problem. We already have in the literature some records of fatal encounters of giant anteater and man, but it's
wow.
very, very, very rare to have this kind of thing.
Wow. It sounds
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, I'm learning here, and I hope my viewers are too, because, well, giant theaters have currently a big range in Latin America, from Argentina to Panama. No, more than Panama, I believe Mexico, right?
Yeah, south of Mexico.
Wow, it is a mega range. And now that we are talking about this, would you say that the current situation in Brazil is like not, oh, well, let me rephrase that.
Okay.
Is the current situation the same in other countries, or, well, are other countries experiencing increases or decreases or this kind of problems with giant theaters?
So giant anteaters have the all Brazilian territory to be. So when we compare the Brazilian giant anteaters to other small countries, for example, Honduras or Panama, that are very small related to the Brazil size, you have to think that this countries has a small population. So all the stuff that is happening in a big country is all it's same in the small countries. So it's more intense in the small countries. So in the some of the countries of the Central America, giant anteaters are already extinct. For example, Honduras and Guatemala too. And also, giant anteaters are extinct in the Uruguay and in some in the Rio Grande do Sul state of Brazil. So it's is the state that is neighboring the Uruguay.
Why? Mhm.
So it's the south area of the giant anteater distribution is having experiencing some extinctions, local extinctions.
Ooh.
In the Central America, the same thing is happening. But when we see the Brazil, we think, oh, Brazil is amazing, it's huge size, but the populations inside of it, it's just spotted. It's not all Brazil having a lot of giant anteaters, not like that.
And that
So
is fragmentation. Yeah,
yeah,
small population. And, well, aren't some of the, well, no, before that question, let me ask, when you say small populations, how many individuals are you talking about? Like less than 50, less than 100, or like a population of, it is small because it is a population of 1,000 or 500. How many I would?
we don't know. The people that work with these species simply don't know. We it's very difficult to measure density and abundance of giant anteaters, and we don't know. In this place of São Paulo that I did my doctorate study,
Uh-huh.
I measure, for example, the maximum 25 animals. and it's a small population. There is estimative in Serra da Canastra National Park for, I think, uh, two, 200 animals. But
Oof.
we don't know, in fact. It's
Of
this,
course, it is super difficult, and you
yeah,
don't know, and you only know of individuals in protected areas, but all the others that could be anywhere, yeah. So then, would you say that some of these small populations, like for example, at the biological station of Santa Barbara, can experience or are experiencing a genetic bottleneck? For those who don't know of my viewers, a genetic bottleneck is a point in which a population is so related to each other, or yeah, that they start inbreeding and that they reach a point in which the population can't be viable anymore. So now, Alexander.
yeah, I think so. We, of course, we will need to get their genetics to ensure that it's happening. But because the distribution of the home range, the distribution of the individuals, and the density estimative that we made there, I think that I think in the next years this population will be extinct, like 50, 60 years,
Oh,
because it's a lot of pressure on them. So, and genetics is one of the pressures that can decimate a local population, local and small population that is very isolated of others. So I guess it's probably happening in there too.
and is Projeto Tamandua or any of your fellow colleagues that work with that giant theaters having like some kind of reintroduction program, or the creation of new areas for protection of giant theaters? Because for example, in some areas, um, even the giant otters, not only in Brazil but in other countries, they bring them from an area with a not viable but stable population, and reintroduce them in order that needs a boost, or yeah, something like that.
Okay, so we have a project that was a success introducing giant eaters in Iberá, Argentina, and in there they started their work having these babies that are orphan, and they feed them, they train them to eat ants and termites, all the care that was necessary, and they released the animals with equipment, VHF equipment, and now I think they have a great population of giant anteater, but they bought a huge area to release giant anteaters. It's important that giant anteaters that will be introduced need some habitat. So it's important to this habitat exists. So if you want to release some giant anteaters, the first thing is where there is some habitat. What are the risks? And in this project that I mentioned, they did all this inventory first to understand the threats, the local dynamics, and now they having some babies that are born, I think it's
Are
correct,
being born, yeah.
are being born in there. So it's a nice project. In Brazil, we have some initiatives in some places, but these are like newborns, and I think we're gonna have some success near in few years, but today no project that I know it's doing this stuff uh, for now.
Well, that's very nice to hear that at least in some areas they are reintroducing them. They are having a not a baby boom, but like yeah, more are being formed in the species a little bit more stable. Uh, um, still, still, I feel a little not sad, but a little bad because, well, 50, 60 years, and if nothing is done, then this species could end extinct, and that shouldn't be. And fellow viewers, that's why you should donate to Project Tamandua, support them because what they are doing is to stop the extinction of one of the most beautiful animals we can find in Latin America. And not only are they contributing with giant anteaters, they also are contributing with tamanduas, silky anteaters, uh, three-toed sloths, two-toed sloths, and many other species. Well, Alexandra, before you go, I have a last question. Well, two or three last questions,
Okay.
actually. Are the last year and this year, one of the headlines around the world was the fires. The wildfires in Brazil, how are they affecting giant anteaters?
Well, a lot. The first thing is that the fires have the direct impact killing the animals. Giant eaters has a little difficult to smell something that is coming from other direction than the wind. So
Oh,
sometimes when the fire is not too near, it's difficult, and the wind is not coming to their snoot. They simply don't know what is happening. So when the fire is just near, it's difficult to run, to escape. Then we have some information from a fire, an old event of fire in Emas National Park in Brazil, and a lot of carcass of giant anteaters after the fire were found. So it's it's very it's a very important treat because the fire can kill giant anteaters a lot. And as giant anteater has this fur that is very long, it's like an inflammable
oh,
skin, inflammable fur. So it's easy to the fire do some injuries in the animals.
oh.
So this is the first thing. After we have the habitat again, the habitat loss and the problem that uh, it's too hot the soil, so the animals can't go there, and it's very
Mm.
difficult. Water, the heat, all the things, and also some ants and some termites can be affected, but mostly they weren't, but they are not, but they can. So it's it's difficult. The fire can produce some direct and some indirect effects in the population.
Well, people, there you hear it. Another species added to the list of animals being affected by climate change. Oh my god, that's simply terrible. I have literally I have no words to express that because it is happening, and the worst of it, it is that it isn't happening in just one place. It's happening in Brazil, it's happening in Australia, it's happening in Russia, it is happening everywhere. That's why we need more conservation and more environmentalists, ideas, and environmentalist people that want to do everything to protect it. So before you go, Alexandra, do you have a last or do you want to give a last inspiring and important message to our viewers about, well, about giant anteaters, about conservation, about Brazil, an inspiring message?
Yeah, I think all people can be conservationist because some of our daily decisions, for example, if I want some plastic bags or if I will eat meat all the days of the week, and some decisions that seems to be regular, normal, could affect the environment and affect all the wildlife in there. So I think it's important to buy from environmental friendly companies. It's important to know if the meat you are eating is coming from legal pasture. It's this kind of stuff. It's important to be part of the problem and to understand that the world is just one, and the garbage that you produce is your problem too, and to put yourself inside of the problems. Your decisions will affect all the people and the environment as well the wildlife. So you don't need to be a guy that loves animals, but you need to be a person that think about your consumption and what you do with your garbage. And if you go to work in a car or bike or in bus, all these little decisions that are daily little decisions are very big decisions. I think this
Def-
is my message.
Definitely, Alexandra. Well, people, put in practice what Alexandra say. Take advice. Try to be every day more environmentally friendly. And also, I hope you learned about giant theaters today. And I will let you down below the link to Projeto Tamandua, their webpage, and the link to donations, to give them donations. Also, please like and subscribe to my channel. We are doing more interviews. We are having a special, great. I just have many adjectives to describe this people that are doing a change for our planet. So, have a nice day. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here, Alexandra. I hope we keep in touch. I hope we can do future interviews or be contributing with the Giant Theater Conservation. If you have some colleagues that would like to have an interview, please let me know. And well, here I am with our doors open.